And there it goes. All right. Hey there, Sheepdogs. Welcome to Sheepdogs. This is take 2. Almost got through this video, and my daughter walked in to interrupt me because the other kids were playing in the shed, which is not safe. So, I'll start again. Today, I wanted to share the story of my concealed carry journey. This is the first time I've shared this story publicly in its entirety, because there's a significant spiritual component to the story that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, especially among my friends. It's like I've got the gun friends who are uncomfortable with the spiritual side of the story, and I've got spiritual friends who are uncomfortable with the gun side of the story. But I've been listening to a lot of Jordan Peterson lately, and figure I should speak the truth rather than guard my reputation. So with that, I'm going to tell the whole story. I'll give you some background on me, where I came from, what my attitudes were going into this. I grew up in a Christian conservative home in the Chicago area. We were radical gun nuts by Chicago standards because between the family, we owned 3 guns. Yeah, crazy. And my brother actually went hunting once. Yeah, we were total rednecks by Chicago standards. I rejected the Christian conservatism at a young age. By 14, I was a radical, some might say rabid libertarian. I didn't even know what a libertarian was. I just, between reading the Bible and basic economic theory, I was a nerd. I read basic economic theory at 14. But basically I came up with more or less an anarcho-capitalist ideology at like 14. Didn't even know any of those terms, those names. I didn't know who Ayn Rand was, or Mises, or any of those people. So that's where I was. That's who I was going into this story. So my first job out of college is in Alabama, much freer state than the Chicago area, and so I said, I should buy a gun now that I live in a free state. And but I believed in gun ownership, and I opposed gun control for the same reason, in the same way I oppose, government ownership of educational institutions. It was part of a political ideology. It was not something that I thought was directly evil in and of itself, but that it was a too much of a temptation. You shouldn't give that kind of power to somebody. And it was strictly a political issue to me. It was not a moral issue. So I lived in Alabama for many years, and came to work as a contractor for the Army, and as an engineer. I'm not one of them. No, not a security contractor or anything like that. I was doing materials engineering stuff, but so everybody I worked with was former Army. And they were all into guns. One of them was, a bona fide gun nut by Texas standards, and so they were trying to encourage me to get into guns, to buy a gun, get my concealed carry permit, all that. And I'll do that. With the same attitude that, one of these days I'm going to run for office. Never happened. It was never really going to happen. Then over time, we got into a situation where we were trying to help somebody out, and didn't go well. And we ended up with a kind of a credible threat against my family. And I started thinking, maybe we should get a gun. And it seemed like the logical thing to do. It's easy enough to do in Alabama. So I started looking into it, and talked to my wife about it, and we both prayed about it. And we're those crazy kind of Christians who believe that God does stuff. when you pray, and he actually talks back occasionally. And we both kind of got the sense that he was saying not now. You know, not necessarily. I didn't feel like he said no, but I definitely felt like he said not now. So I kind of put the idea out of my head, and so around this time, I have to check the dates. I don't remember exactly, but it was around this time that I had food allergies that were pretty bad. I didn't have anaphylaxis. I'd have focal seizures, basically. I never had a reaction while I was hooked up to an EEG machine, so I don't 100% sure know that's what it was, but the symptoms lined up. I would basically lose the ability to speak, and motor control on particularly the left side of my body would go all wonky, and it was it was unpleasant. So I'd had that for years, and at one point, somebody in our church prayed for healing, and the next day, pretty much we left to take some kids to a Christian youth camp, and I got there, and I was telling myself the whole trip up, don't forget that you're not 19 anymore, and don't, these kids are going to play soccer, and you're going to want to play with them, and you're going to hurt yourself, so don't. And within a couple hours of getting there, I had already forgotten my own advice. And after playing soccer for about an hour, suddenly I realized my ankle doesn't hurt. That hadn't happened in 12 years. I had severely injured my ankle in high school playing soccer. And so I told my wife about it. I was like, wow, my ankle doesn't hurt. So, we prayed for healing for you on Sunday, and I was like, oh, cool. I wonder if my allergies are healed. So I ate a piece of cheese, and they were not healed. I had, took a couple hours of not being able to speak and all that fun stuff again. So after that, I prayed about it, and I heard, the word yes, but wait. So okay, why do I have to wait? But oh well, I've had these allergies for years. I can wait a little longer. And over the next few weeks, a couple things happened that were kind of divine appointments that wouldn't have happened if I had been healed immediately. But then a couple weeks after that happened, we had dinner at a friend's house. And they were super careful, not to mix ingredients, but they didn't wash their hands good enough, I think. I had a reaction Friday night, and I was, it wasn't super bad, but it was it was definitely a reaction. Then that night, my wife has a dream about cupcake lollipops, and bizarrely, it sticks in her head. And it's weird why I would remember such a trivial dream. Anyways, the next day we go to Starbucks for breakfast, and it's the first time we saw cupcake lollipops at Starbucks. And so she said, I think maybe you're healed. You should try a cupcake lollipop. And I said, are you sure? I'm pretty sure there's both wheat and dairy in that, and that's not going to end well. And she said, try it. I'll drive home if I'm wrong. Okay, all right. So I tried it, and I was fine. So this experience is fresh in my mind going into the actual story that I told you I was going to tell you 10 minutes ago. So over the next few months, there were a number of other incidents that happened, as well as that person that we'd had issues with before came back at one point and escalated the threat and all that. And once again, I said, maybe it's time to buy a gun. And I thought about it, I prayed about it. I still didn't quite feel right about it. And on the same, I think it was all the same day. It's been a few years, so it's a little fuzzy. But I hear the story of it happened in Oklahoma, where there was a radical Muslim jihadist guy who got fired from his job for harassing his coworkers with his radical Islamic ideology. And so he decided that he was going to come back the next day and behead people. So he beheaded one person, actually like cut somebody's head off in the office with a knife, and then was working on a second person when the manager came in with his little 380 and shot the guy 6 times. And he didn't die. It was a 380. But it was, it was one of those stories of, oh, wow, nobody, the bad guy got hurt but didn't die. A bunch of lives were saved. And so I'm driving home from work that day, and I'm praying, and I said, you know what, God, you sent this guy to save that lady in that office. You healed my food allergies. I could point to half a dozen other miracles that had happened, and I said, you know what? I don't need a gun. I trust you. I trust you to save me. You can stop the bullets in midair if you wanted to. And if you don't want to, then, well, I guess I get to go home. And at that moment, I've, it's like something broke off me. I was totally at peace with the decision, ready to go my whole life without touching a gun again. And that lasted for about 2 seconds. And like a bolt of lightning in the back of my head came the sentence, what if you're my plan for saving somebody else? And I couldn't respond to that. And 2 weeks later, I had bought my first gun. And a week after that, I'd gotten my concealed carry permit, which is a real easy in Alabama, 20 minutes, $20. It was pretty easy. And started carrying right there. And I took a few months off when I moved to South Carolina. It took me a while to get around to getting my South Carolina permit, but since I've had my permit, I've carried every single day. And because to me, it's not a good idea. It's not protection. It's a holy calling. God told me to, and I'm not going to not do that. And at the end of the day, that experience changed how I saw the issue of gun control and guns in general. It was no longer a political issue for me. It was no longer an extension of my libertarianism. This was a moral absolute that good men must be prepared and must be equipped to confront evil. And anything that denies that is morally wrong. And additionally, the weak are just as valuable as the strong. And to deny them the mechanical advantage to become equal in combat is, again, morally wrong. You're judging that life less valuable simply because they're not strong. And so from there, that completely changed how I approached the gun issue. And really, I don't like the macho, not if I shoot them first attitude, because to me, gun ownership and concealed carry is about love. Guns are about peace, and it's not a my rights, my chance to win. It's my duty to stand against evil. And it's my duty to clear the way for you to stand against evil. And it's my duty to clear the way for the innocent and the defenseless to defend themselves. So that's why I care about this issue. That's why I started this YouTube channel. That's why I do all of it, is because this isn't just a political ideology. This isn't just my rights. This is a moral imperative. And this is a holy calling if you choose to be somebody who's ready to stand in the gap for everybody else. So with that, see you later, and thanks for watching. And now you know the story behind my sign-off slogan of always be ready to be somebody else's miracle. See you later.